Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
In Fairfield County, something new comes across my desk every day. Crimes are committed, cases are solved, and a community is made safe by the hardworking employees of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television. We're also carried by a number of the radio affiliates here in Lancaster. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. Our executive producer, Kelly Roberts, and this program is actually taped at Fairfield Christian Academy. J.T. Burcham and a number of the students typically throughout the school year help us with the production. And I'm certainly appreciative of each and every one of you who have joined us today. Special guest is Chief Don McDaniel. Good to see you, Chief.
Good to see you, Sheriff.
And congratulations on becoming Chief.
Much appreciated.
What a thrill that must be.
It's pretty exciting. You know, I've been with the police department for 28 years, and it's an honor to accept the position as Chief and to be appointed Chief by the city, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you're a Lancaster guy and was in the Marines.
Yes, I born and raised in Lancaster, graduated Lancaster High School. After high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I was there for 4 years. Military was a great experience, and I tell people that probably wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for the Marine Corps.
Really?
And that experience was very valuable.
Now, something have you thought as a young person, or when did you decide to become a police officer?
Well, I came home after the military and started looking for opportunities, and believe it or not, I saw an ad in the Lancaster Eagle-Gazette, and sounded interesting, and so I took the test, and kind of the rest is history. I did pretty well on the civil service exam, and finished number 2, and certainly the military experience helped with that, and I was hired several months later, and I've been with the department for 28 years.
And I know that you're do some stuff with the sports.
Yeah, I try to be active in the community. My daughter was a pretty good athlete, and at one point I was asked to volunteer to coach, and kind of got the bug.
Okay.
And coached her in basketball and in softball for quite a few years, and then even after she graduated and moved on, I continued to coach, and actually coached at Fisher Catholic High School for a few years.
Really?
Yeah, it was an enjoyable experience.
So you've recently become the chief. Tell us a little bit about some of your assignments within the police department.
Well, I've actually, and I really think that's going to help me in my time as chief, but I've had the opportunity to be essentially stationed in all areas of the police department. Spent several years on patrol as a patrol officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, and when I made captain, I was transferred at one point to the detective bureau and was detective bureau commander for a few years. And I think it's important to see all these areas. And over the period of time, I was an administrative captain. Was able to learn how to do purchasing and budgeting and staffing and some of those things. And also at some point I was in charge of DARE and community services and some of the other aspects of the department.
Yeah, sounds like you got a great background to take the reins over there.
Yeah, I think it's been a great experience, and I do think being exposed to those other things that some supervisors don't get the opportunity to be in those positions. It's one of the things that Chief Bailey worked on, and I will continue to work on, is to make sure our supervisors have the ability to experience all different sides of the operation.
As you think back on 28 years and probably how quick that's flown, what are some big changes you've seen within the city or within the police department from the time you started till today?
Things have changed quite a bit, and as you know, in law enforcement, we're constantly changing. There's new laws, there's new technology. Well, the Lancaster Police Department has seen a lot of that. When I was first hired, things were a little different. We ran our own jail. At one point, we negotiated with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office and the county commissioners, and we were able to turn jail operations.
I guess
over.
I didn't know that, or I'd forgotten. Yeah.
And that was, honestly, it's been a benefit to us. It allows us to concentrate on our function, which is patrolling the city and keeping the citizens safe. So we gave up the jail. We've done a lot of other things in the department to streamline operations, and technology has been one of those things. Up until a few years ago, our officers still did reports by hand.
Right.
We got online with the Attorney General's office, and now we have in-car reporting through a system called OLEG, which is the Ohio Law Enforcement Officers Gateway. I know your department's also using that system.
We are.
We can enter incident reports and crash reports from the cruiser in the field. It allows, it frees up clerical staff and allows a more streamlined operation. It also allows better public access to those records and quicker access to those records. So there's been a few things. And then the onset and the use of computers, not only the MDT that the officers use in the car, the mobile data terminal, which is used to get information, dispatch calls, communicate, but also even the use of cellular technology and phones that the officers are able to use and see things that we couldn't see when we were young patrol officers. They can see it immediately, and we would have to research and hunt down leads and make phone calls, and an officer has that at his disposal now. So it's changed law enforcement for the better.
My son, who's a Columbus police officer, for about the last 5 years he's been on another assignment, really away from the patrol division, and he just started a couple of days ago, and he was surprised in 5 years how many things had changed within Columbus as far as their reporting, as far as the way they're going to navigate through accident reports, everything, nothing's paper anymore. Right. So I talked to him yesterday, and he was saying, I'm just kind of getting acquainted with the cameras and a lot of things they've gotten away with, and that's just 5 years.
Yes, it's significant change, and I think we use, as law enforcement officers, use technology constantly, and as you know, the Lancaster Police Department implemented a body cam program a couple of years ago. We actually use the Taser Axon body cam. That's the name brand of it. It's the officer wears it on the front of his shirt.
Okay.
When he exits his vehicle and interacts with the public, he presses a button, turns it on. It's really as simple as that, and that allows us to document our interaction with the public. But it also allows the public to have documentation of their interaction with us.
Right.
And I think it's been pretty well accepted by our officers, but it's also looking like that the state is going to do some kind of requirement for that system at some point in the future. And I think nationwide, it's probably going to happen. Yeah,
and I've been surprised. First of all, I want to congratulate the Lancaster Police Department. You were really ahead of the curve on this. You were one of the early agencies to have it.
Yes, I think it's about 2 years now we've had it.
Yeah.
And it's a very successful program.
And I've been surprised with, and we're looking at that now, and I think you're right. I think it's one of the recommendations coming down from the state that it may be mandated in the next few years. But how well it really has been accepted by officers. I have not found one of my deputies that thought it was a bad idea. So it's kind of surprising that it would be that well received, because when you think about it, most people wouldn't want, no matter whether they were working in a construction job or working in a doctor's office, to have everything that they did when they interact with the public recorded and documented like that. It would be kind of an uncomfortable feeling.
Yes, but I think, and I would agree with that, but our officers have discovered that they're being recorded anyway, sometimes surreptitiously through a cell phone.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
And we have advised our officers for a few years with the onset of YouTube and other media that you should assume that you're being videotaped. And in this case, we know they're being videotaped because we're doing it. And the officers have accepted that, and it's been a beneficial thing for both the public and the department.
And I think that, the reality is a lot of things we see on television or national news, they run a negative story over and over again. But the reality is 98% of the time, officers, deputies handle these calls appropriately, so they really don't mind for everybody to see it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I think we've done a lot. You talk about changes in law enforcement. Another program that I think we should highlight here as far as the way we do police work. I think in some respects we've always had officers that are really good at speaking with people, but I know your department and the Lancaster Police Department have joined in a program called CIT, Crisis Intervention Team, or
Right.
Crisis Intervention Training. That program goes hand in hand with the idea that we're working with the public, trying to help people in crisis. Officers are actually certified, a 4-hour training course, certified in how
Yes.
to deal with crisis.
Yeah.
It's a great program.
And and I think back on my career, what a much better job they do today in handling domestic violence cases. Early on in my career, if we would go to a location and there'd be a husband and wife were in some kind of an altercation, maybe there would be some injuries to the wife, and we would say, do you want to file charges? She would say, no, I really don't. And that would kind of be the end of it. Today, the officers, deputies, they're mandated. If they've got to go ahead and take action. So there's been a lot of improvements, and the training has just been tremendous in the last few years.
Yes, and I saw those same changes in my career. When I first got on, it was much like you described. Sometimes you would say, you go upstairs, you stay downstairs, leave each other alone.
Right.
Well, as you know, that often didn't work.
Right.
But at that time, the law was different, and our tools were different, and our training was different.
And one of the things that I've tried to do with the sheriff's office is I've told the deputies, and we've even done some training on this, to look at underlying causes, why you're there. Is there something else we can do beyond just take a report? For instance, if there's an intersection where we're having a disproportionate number of accidents, let's go and see if there's something else that can be done, whether it's working with the engineer's office, whether there's something else, signage or whatever. So I think a lot of times our officers and deputies go to these runs over and over again, and if they can eliminate the underlying causes, then we don't have to go there all the time.
Yeah, and that's another change we've seen. We're working at Lancaster Police Department does the same thing. Look, what can we do to resolve this problem in a more permanent fashion?
Correct. Hey, we're just coming up about a minute and a half. What I'd like to do next week, I know there are, and I was fascinated really at the number of programs that you have within the Lancaster Police Department. There's just a lot of great programs, and next week I'd like to kind of cover some of those.
Absolutely, be happy to.
And the other thing is to talk about maybe what a really terrific relationship we have with the Lancaster Police Department. I have a lot of respect for you guys, and the Lancaster Police Department just is as professional an agency as I've seen around, and it goes hand in hand with the partnership we have with the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, we have a great partnership, and I think that's for all of Fairfield County. All the agencies in Fairfield County get along so well and work so well to accomplish what all of our mission is, and that's keeping people safe.
Lancaster Police Chief Don McDaniel. Do appreciate it. We're going to be
Thank you,
back next week with the Chief and get to talk about a lot of great programs they have going on right here in the city of Lancaster. Well, the clock on the wall says we're just about out of time. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners, and the Chief taking time out of their busy schedule to join us, our executive producer, Kelly Roberts, and certainly the Fairfield Christian Academy, that if it wasn't for their participation, this program wouldn't be here. And certainly to you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week, a big thanks. Until next week, same time, same place, God bless, and we'll see you right here.
Gosh, Darlene, it sure is amazing how much we have in common.
I know, Larry. We both love three-car pileups. We both were built in Buffalo.
And we both know wearing safety belts help save thousands of lives.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Don't mind Vince. He's getting over a bad breakup.
I know. Janet's picking up the pieces, too. They're in here.
I wish they understood it's all worth it to get people to buckle up.
Hey, lacerated lovebirds, I sense a major crush.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Talk about head over heels.